Welcome to Career Step Forward. I'm Christiane Beinroth with my online consulting azurate. Welcome. This episode is part 4 of a 4-part series called Qualities, Soft Skills, and Attitudes that come handy when you work internationally. In today's episode, we want to talk about why hybrid style international job assignments can get tricky. And if you're saying, what is she talking about? It's me, it's not you. So we want to talk about today about those mixed type or hybrid style, what I call hybrid style international job assignments, where maybe somebody initially for a few weeks or months moves to an international location, gets to know the team, sets up routines, structures, and then comes back home to the home or home base location, works virtually from here, and then sometimes travels to the international location for a few days or a week or something like that. These type of assignments that are kind of mixed in nature can have consequences and side effects that we might not right away be aware of. There are issues that can stay undetected. I see 2 big areas, and again, so if you have an assignee who travels internationally in these type of assignments, usually the partner and the children stay back home. And you often hear comments like, but that's great. See, the whole family doesn't have to move. They can stay in their school. The partner can maybe keep their job and so on. Now, on the contrary, if you have an international job assignments that is long-term and you take your partner or your whole family along, it is much more obvious that change is happening and that you need to adjust to the new situation, that there's a huge transition. People are much more aware of it, how it influences your relationship and your routines. Kids have to get used to new schools. You have to set up your everyday life with, signing up for new accounts and getting used to the culture, the climate, the food, the language, whatever. And so I think if you have an international job assignment where you have a move with a family for 2, 3, 5 years, it's much more obvious that this has an effect. When you have these hybrid style assignments where only one partner, the one with the assignment, is sometimes traveling to the international location, I think that the consequences or issues that can come up are just way more undetected. And I want to bring awareness to this today in this episode because what I hear from global mobility sites, and I think this is a style, a type of assignment that is coming up, that is more in use now, or will be more in use. We have seen it through COVID, that virtual working has its place. And so that's why I think it's important to bring attention to it. I see 2 big issues. The one is more the outward, the visible consequences. A while ago, I talked to somebody. This lady worked in a corporate job, and it included frequent international travels, sometimes staying for a few days, going to Asia, other places internationally. And they had 2 small kids. Now her husband had to then take the responsibility for the kids and also hold a job. So that was an issue that came up with her frequent travels, that her husband felt the burden. And often it's, of course, the other way around, that it's often women who have to shoulder more responsibility when the spouse is traveling. So we can have these outward, or kids have to spare their parent and routines that you have. Or even I talked to another person. He had to travel a lot for his job. Now, it wasn't internationally, but just even nationally, he had a very irregular schedule, and he had been part of a badminton team, played badminton, but he couldn't keep that routine because he just had such an irregular schedule. Now, luckily for him, he found another person who was in a similar situation, so they just paired up and played badminton sometimes just to be able to work out. But what we are saying, we do have often little issues coming up that might not be obvious right away, especially if a partner is shouldering things or it limits the freedoms of a partner, but it might not be obvious right away because some things come out or you realize that it becomes a burden, maybe not initially, but just after some time. Then the second big issue is that the person who is traveling internationally, it changes them, who they are as a person, the role that they play, how they define themselves, because that person is exposed to a different culture, to a different way of working, of dimensions of like priorities, how to interact with each other, just that social system. And the person might be aware of it, or they might not be aware of it. It doesn't matter, or they might be able to make it a topic or not. But anyway, we want to point out that while the partner and the family or children, friends, whoever, they continue to have their local experience, but this one person in the relationship or in the family goes to an international location and is actually influenced and changes as a person who they are. It might not be much. It might be that they are aware of it and can communicate it. It could be something like what is important to them in life, what they like to do in their spare time, the way how they communicate. But I think it is important to mention, it's not just that Tom, let's call him Tom, he's working internationally. He's going there for a few weeks and then Tom is back. But Tom has changed a little bit, and over time it changes the person, which is not a bad thing. It's just normal. We are exposed to things and it changes who we are. But the problem is that, let's say a spouse might in relating to Tom, might still see him as the original Tom before he started to travel. I hope this makes sense. And that can cause tensions and it can cause miscommunications. So I think that is an area where when we can bring awareness to it, that the international travel or international stay, even if it's just short or the communication is virtual, it does influence in different ways and a different shape or form. But let's be aware of that so that the partner can also grow in the awareness of what's happening to their spouse who is traveling. I think it's an important topic. It's not so easy. It has a lot to do with realizing that even short-term international assignments have an effect on who you are, not just the outward obvious routines, but how it affects those, but also just who you are, because you might not think that's happening if you're just traveling short-term. And then also, especially if you have a spouse, that together with them, you can look at a topic and your spouse can be aware of what's happening and maybe even get a little familiar with that culture that you are encountering, or that you just, as the one with the assignment, is more aware of the differences and can consciously choose how they relate to the spouse and how they communicate and talk when they are at an international location. Some people I've seen are very good at separating that, kind of playing two roles, and not that is bad, but in communication, in behavior, kind of live two roles. One is when you work internationally, and the one is when you locally interact with your partner's family or your social network. It works well because usually those people have to still the same set of values or overall goals for themselves. So it's not that they kind of live a split identity or anything like that. Yeah. Okay. So far, so good. It's not an easy topic. I hope it was inspiration in a way. And yeah, if you have questions, get back to me. I'm sure it will come up again as hybrid style assignments are coming and are more used these days. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.